Hello guys, good morning, good afternoon. Today's class is going to be a little bit more different as I'm recording this class, but it will serve you as a reference later on if you want to check out the, the operations and features that we're doing. So in today's class I want to talk to you about this way that you can profit out of the designs that you can create in SolidWorks. You can actually sell all these models. So there are several web pages that actually do this. You can find just by clicking on sell 3D models, and there you can find several web pages. Okay, so Turbo Squid, Shape, etc., etc., etc. So you create your own model and then you can go and sell these. And as currently we have a surge in AR technology, it is more affordable and it's easier to use for developers. When you try to see how a furniture will fit in a room, you can create these type of models and sell them in these type of web pages. So there is a market for this, and I'm going to show you a very quick way of how we could create a model. In this case, it's going to be a robot, and it's going to be a more simplified version for this robot. However, we'll see how it's done. So we are going to start by saving this image. I actually have it already in my desktop. And we are going to import this image in SolidWorks so we can create all the main silhouette, etc. So we'll use a centimeters template. Actually, I don't have it created yet, but we can just click here and change the units. Okay, so the first thing is going to be to choose a face or a plane in which to draw. And right now I'm going to use the front view. Right here I'm going to create a new sketch, and from here I can go to tools, sketching tools, and here I have an option that it says import an image in the sketch. So this will serve us as a reference to more or less see what we want to create. So we want this to be a specific height. So right now I'm just gonna type 10 centimeters, and this is more or less how I want the final robot to look like. Okay, so we'll go here, create a new sketch. I'm gonna try to have it exactly in the middle, and remember we need to have a reference to the origin point. So let's just define this reference is okay. It's a little bit arbitrary, but however it's going to be just fine. Okay, so we have the head, the body, one arm, two arms, right? So I believe we will need to create first the head and also the body. Okay, so let's just create a couple squares right here and right here. And this is the way that we are going to extrude, and then we are going to connect these two shapes with circles. For the legs, I think it's better to model them in the side view. Actually, let's see if we have a side view for this robot. I don't think we do, but anyways, as this is just a reference, it's no big deal. Anyways, let's define this, maybe round it to the closest unit, 3, and for the head, 2 is fine, and we need to have them exactly aligned with these midpoints right here. Okay, so we will hover the mouse and then we click on these two and add this reference. So midpoint with this line, and they should be actually, there you go. Also this line, well, this midpoint, sorry, you have to be very careful to select them, and then coincident. There you go. So as we want them to be squares, I will also set this one to 2 and this one to 3. Okay, we can still click and drag and we can see what we are missing. So we need to find exactly the height. So I'm just gonna drag it a little bit taller. So, and actually, yes, it's fine. And 375 here to here, 7. And let's see what we are missing. Actually, the reference that I thought I added, it didn't. Click here and we click on this line and we add a coincident relationship. And now we have the shape for the head and the body. So let's extrude this one. It's going to be 2 shapes, and let's just extrude it 3 centimeters. There you go. Now we have a shape, a basic shape for a robot. So now let's create the arms and the head. I'm sorry, the arms and also the leg. So I'm going to create it in different operations. Okay, so we're going to be looking at this one. And for the reference, we can see this robot has a circular shape and circular shape. Okay, so we are on this phase. We click here on New Sketch, and from this sketch, we will select the midpoint. Maybe from this midpoint here, and we will set up a value. We will create this shape. Maybe want to touch exactly this part, and also we want another circle right here, and let's just add a value 0.5. Actually, let's make it a little bit bigger. We will create a line, goes from here to here, and then we can just add this line 0.5, closer, 0.3, 0. There you go. and we can add these two lines. Now we can just create one closed polygon by using our trim tool, and from this tool we will create the arm. Okay, so we have that shape right there. Now let's extrude it, and we will extrude it half a centimeter. There you go. Now, as we want it to have two arms, we will just create a symmetry operation. So we will need a reference in this point to cut through. So maybe we are going to need a new plane. If we remember, we extruded this. This has 3 units. So from this side view, front view, sorry, we will need to create a new plane, and it has to be so. There you go. Now we can just click here and use symmetry, and we need to select the plane, and it's going to be the new plane that we just created, and okay, there you go. Now let's create maybe this shape right here. So we select this face and new sketch. From here, oh, sorry, I think that I click on edit. So we want to create a new sketch in this face. We can click here to create this square right here, but we want it to be for construction. So I believe we can select to create it to say that it's going to be for construction before we create it. No. Okay. So let's just select all the lines and add this value. Actually, I believe when we click here on equidistancia, the geometry that we used to create it will be turned into for construction. Okay, so there you go, and we want it to be through all our body. Oops, let me try that again. Equidistancia, and click here. We want it to be on the inside, and here, here, here. So there you go. Now we have all that shape created, and we can extrude this closed polygon, and this value is fine. And now let's try to create the legs. To do that, maybe it's easier to start on a new plane, or maybe it has to be from a parallel plane from this front view that I chose to start the drawing from. Actually, I just noticed that the arms are wrong. Well, we're just going to continue. Never mind, it's just an exercise. So, okay, maybe the easier way so we don't have to create any more planes. It's going to be to extrude the leg, this polygon, and then we can add this shape later on. Okay, so new and new sketch. We will have our leg shape right here. We want this midpoint and this midpoint to be aligned vertically, and I wanted to have also a reference from this point, from this midpoint to this other. Let me try that again. This one and this one horizontally aligned. Now we can add dimensions right here, something close to the value, and oops, I'm sorry. So maybe it's easier just to add the value right here, 1.5 and 0.5. Okay, and we wanted to extrude it up to the origin point, right? So extrude, and we want to select a plane. In this case, it's going to be floor view. So we will select here up to surface, and we select this, and there you go. Now let's create the rounded shape of the knee and also the leg depth or the feet. Okay, so I think it's easier to draw on this face. Maybe no, maybe right on this face. What I'm thinking is that I will need to add a symmetry operation to fill the feet and the knee in both sides. So I think that we're going to create a new reference geometry. So let's say that we want a plane in the midpoint. I just selected the two faces that I wanted, and it created a plane exactly in the midpoint. That is another way to create the planes. Okay. So now that we have this plane, let's click on new sketch. We are going to view normal view. We'll need a line, constructed line that will help us to create this shape. So let's round it up to 2, and for the value here it's 1.9. There you go. And let's see, we also need a feet for this robot. Okay, so we'll need to have more or less like this, maybe a little bit more on the front. So let's start adding the references. We want this line to be collinear with this line. We are going to define the height. And we are going to define the distance from this point. 1, I guess it's fine. And the distance from this point to this line. 1.5. Okay, so now we have a sketch that is exactly in the middle of the leg, and we want to create an extrusion in both sides. So we'll go here, features, extrusion, and we can say that we want two directions, and maybe this distance 0.4. There you go. Now we have our leg for this robot. And now let's create the other leg. So we have this operation and this other feature, sorry, and we will have to replicate it exactly in the midpoint. So it's going to be very easy. We'll click here on symmetry, and we will say first the reference point. In this case, we click here to see the whole geometry that we have. And now as I selected, I see a preview of how it's going to look. However, we are missing um, this other part. Now in the yellow we see that we have both. We click OK. And now let's add the neck. So we have two. Maybe we can use the revolve operation so it can have a little curve right here. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is to know exactly how tall this thing is. So we can use here on calculate to measure, and we click here, and it's going to tell us the height of the neck. It's 0.25 centimeters. So we have to draw on a plane. In this case, it's going to be this one that is called plane one. So new sketch, and we'll view a normal view. So right now we want the neck to be exactly actually I think in the midpoint up to here. Now we need a new line. It's going to be a constructive line, but it's to create it we need to have the midpoint here, and we're going to create a midpoint line here. So we select it and we change it to be for construction. And now we'll need to have a longer line also here. There you go. And this is going to be for construction too. This will help us to create an arc and then another arc. So we can use also tool for symmetry right here, and we say we want this line. Actually, this is the reference. Oh no, this is actually the geometry that's going to be copied. Now we can select from here. Okay, so now we can select this value right here, number 5. Actually, let's make it a little bit shorter, maybe just 1. This 1.75, and now we can add this arc right here, and also another arc right here. And as this line is, we need to fill or complete our polygon, close polygon, in order to revolve. So we go here and now we click on revolution. We select an axis to revolve. and there you go. So now we have the neck. Actually it's way too small, so let's see if we can just modify it. So click here, sketch, we click on edit sketch. So 1.5, and actually this one has to be longer, this one has to be shorter, so it's a mess. Okay, let's see, maybe we can just remove these for, oh, I see the problem. The issue is that this is the one that I needed to modify, and this one is only one, so it doesn't look good still, so let's remove these. Actually, it should create an arc that looks good. Nope. Let's click here to see the normal view again. Yo. Actually, I like the symmetry, well, this line right here, so let's just try to replicate it with symmetry. This one in respect to this one. There you go. We exit, and now we have a neck for this thing. Okay, let's create the eyes and the ears. New sketch. And we select a value 0.5, maybe bigger one. I think one is too much. Let's try something in between. There we go. So now we have to position this in X and Y positions. So right here from the midpoint, 25 is okay. And 1 is fine. Okay, new extrusion. So right here we see that it has some sort of lead. However, as we are going to do a simplified version, we're going to leave it as is. Maybe we're going to round the corners. However, I think this is fine. 0.25. Go. Now let's create the ear. So click here, new sketch. As we want the ear to be exactly in the midpoint, we can create this line. There you go. 0.7 is fine. Extrusion, and I believe we can create an extrusion is okay. Okay, so this operation right here will allow me, this option right here will allow me to create this type of cone. So if I increase it, you see it's going to create this shape with these degrees. Okay, so maybe 15 degrees is okay. Now we have this cone type. Okay, so these two operations need to be used as symmetry. Okay, so to do that, features, symmetry, we will select plane, in this case plane 1, and which operations, this and the eye. So there we have our first robot. Maybe we could try to draw this other shape. And from here, new sketch. And actually I want this part to be exactly in the middle, as later on it will move exactly on this axis. So to do that, we'll create a new plane. So I'm gonna exit the plane, sorry, and then I'm going to create this reference geometry. It's going to be a plane, and we want it to be exactly right between these two. Will be selected, and we say we want a new sketch, and we want it to look exactly in a normal view. Now we will hover the mouse, want it to be smaller, and we want it to be 0.45. Well, let's try 5. Okay, it is completely black because I added the reference that it's share the same center with this other part. So now let's create an angle. And it will have this shape with this claw. Okay, now click here, it's gonna be smaller, so 0.3, maybe it's fine, 35. We can select an angle, or let's first define the length, and then let's define the angle. It's gonna be in 40 degrees. Now we can add this tool right here, both directions. Let's say it's one. Actually, maybe let's try to make it a little bit thicker. There you go. That's fine. Oops. Sorry. Let's do that, and there you go. Now we will use trim to help us create the solid polygon that we're looking for, the closed polygon that we're looking for, sorry. And click here, 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 here. There you go. Now we can use features extrude, and we want it to extrude both ways in the plane. 0.1 and 0.1. Maybe let's try to make it a little bit thicker. I think that's fine. So we have, actually I think we missed the cloud, so let's add it in this same drawing. We click here, new sketch, and edit the sketch that we have. Normal view. So we will be adding a cloud right here. So there you go. going to be 1, 1. It's not going to be bidirectional, it's only going to be 1, and it's going to be in the inside. So it's going to be a small cloud. Okay, we say it's okay, and now we can trim it. Actually, we turn this into reference, and we don't want that. Now we can create a line right here, and we can define an angle. So 90 degrees. There we go. As I just modify the geometry, I don't have a closed polygon. That's why it's not letting me do this operation. So let's use this. Let's see. We don't want this part, not this part, and not this one. So I think we have it already. I think that I erased a reference, but I'm not gonna stop too much into it. So let's see if it can reconstruct the claw. So it's not good. We can do better, but it's fine. So symmetry, we want to select plane, then we can select which operations we want. So now it has both arms. There you go. We are gonna, from this sketch, this rough sketch, we will be adding movement. We will be slicing it through the middle, etc., etc. So from this part, we are going to be working to create a fully functional drawing. So try to create this, and this will be your homework. Okay. So see you guys. Thank you very much, and I'll see you tomorrow.